John Constable. B. East Bergholt, 1776, D. Hampstead, 1837. Constable is regarded by many as England's greatest landscape painter. Despite this, his route to success was far from easy. His choice of career was opposed by his father and his bride's family, and official recognition in English art circles was very slow in coming. Constable's originality lay in his style and his subject matter. To modern city dwellers, his pictures may seem full of rustic charm, but his contemporaries did not find them sufficiently picturesque. Instead of painting spectacular mountains or sweeping panoramas, he focused on the working countryside, with its mills, barges, and a busy, canalized river. Critics also condemned his pictures as unfinished. Constable was always anxious to capture the precise sensations created by nature, the changes of light under moving clouds, the dampness of rain-soaked fields, the effects of the slightest breeze, and he used vigorous brushwork and white highlights to achieve this. English commentators were unimpressed, but his innovations were better appreciated in France, where Géricault and Delacroix expressed great admiration for his work. Lifeline. 1776. Born in East Anglia, the son of a prosperous corn merchant, 1799 enters the Royal Academy Schools, 1802 exhibits for the first time at the Royal Academy, 1809 becomes engaged to Maria Bucknell, 1816 finally marries Maria, despite her family's disapproval, 1821 paints his most famous work, The Hay Wain, which wins a gold medal at the Paris Salon 3 years later. 1828 Maria dies of tuberculosis, 1829 elected a full member of the Royal Academy, 1837 dies in Hampstead. Boat building near Flatford Mill, Constable painted many rural scenes. This one depicts his father's boatyard. 1815, oil on canvas, 51x62 cm, Victoria and Albert Museum, London, UK. The Hay Wain. Constable depicts a rural scene that was very familiar to him. He exhibited it under the title Landscape, Noon. The picture received a tepid reception at the Royal Academy, but won a gold medal at the Paris Salon, and was much admired by Delacroix. 1821, oil on canvas, 130x 185 cm, National Gallery, London, UK. Closer look. Rustic details. Constable's painting overflows with many authentic details of country life. A kitchen maid kneels down by the landing stage to scoop up a pail of water from the stream. View of Salisbury Cathedral. Constable used the trees as a natural frame for the cathedral. The figures to the left and the cows helped to lead the eye to the focal point. It proved to be a troublesome project because the bishop disapproved of Constable's dark clouds. 1823, oil on canvas, 88x 112 cm, Victoria and Albert Museum, London, UK. Closer look. The Bishop. Constable was close friends with the Bishop of Salisbury, John Fisher, who not only commissioned the painting but appears in it with his wife. No 2 days are alike, nor even 2 hours, either was there ever 2 leaves of tree alike since the creation of the world. John Constable. Joseph Mallord. William Turner. B. London, 1775, D. London, 1851. Turner was the most original and imaginative figure in the history of English landscape painting. He was a close contemporary of John Constable, but their careers could scarcely have been more different. His talent was precocious, while Constable's matured more slowly. He traveled widely, while Constable concentrated on areas with which he was most familiar. And while Constable could toil for months on a single canvas, Turner worked quickly and had a huge output. Turner's style varied considerably over the years. Early in his career, he produced accurate, topographical watercolors that sold well when transferred into prints. After visiting Italy, he also painted serene landscapes in the classical manner, comparable to those of Claude. In his most romantic paintings, however, Turner tried to capture the sheer power of nature, unleashed in violent storms and raging blizzards. Here, his handling became incredibly free, as he scratched and scraped at the canvas until the forms and figures dissolved into swirling vortices of light and color. Lifeline. 1775 born, the son of a barber, in London, 1789 begins studies at Royal Academy Schools, 1792 embarks on the first of his many sketching tours, 1800 his mother is admitted to Bedlam, London's infamous mental hospital, 1802 fourth youngest ever full member of Royal Academy, 1833 begins relationship with Sophia Booth, a widow. 1839 paints his masterpiece, The Fighting Temeraire, 1840 meets John Ruskin, his most ardent supporter, 1851 dies in Chelsea and is buried in St. Paul's Cathedral. A canal near the Arsenal, Venice. Turner made his first visit to Venice in 1819, but it was only in the 1830s that he really fell under its spell. The place inspired some of his most magical watercolors, full of shimmering reflections and ghostly architecture. Watercolor on Paper, British Museum, London, UK. Ulysses deriding Polyphemus. In his return from the Trojan War, Ulysses celebrates a narrow escape from a man-eating Cyclops, the one-eyed giant of Greek mythology. 1829, oil on canvas, 133 by 203 centimeters, National Gallery, London, UK. Closer look. Nature's drama in his subject paintings, Turner conveyed the full impact of the narrative with nature rather than figures. Here, the Cyclops appears as an apparition, looming over the ship, and could be mistaken for a cloud formation. Turner focused on the setting, featuring arched rocks from the Bay of Naples. Rain, steam, and speed, the Great Western Railway. Turner felt exhilarated by the novel sensation of speed, which the railways provided. During a raging storm, he stuck his head out of a carriage window to experience the full power of the elements. 1844, oil on canvas, 91 x 122 centimeters, National Gallery, London, UK. Closer look. Visual pun. Turner has underlined the power of the new technology by contrasting it with older symbols of speed. The hare that appears on the track was probably meant as a reference to the fable of the hare and the tortoise. The Fighting Temeraire, tugged to her last berth to be broken up, 1838 JMW Turner. 1839, oil on canvas, 90.7 by 112.6 centimeters, National Gallery, London, UK. Closer look. The Fighting Temeraire. JMBV Turner. A pale ghost of her former noble and majestic self, the old warship the Temeraire, veteran of the Battle of Trafalgar, is towed up the Thames by a steam tug, to be broken up for scrap. Rather than painting a documentary of the event, Turner transformed the ship's final journey into a mournful hymn to the passing of the great days of sail. First exhibited the year after the Temeraire was broken up, this has always been one of Turner's best-loved canvases. Turner called it his darling, and refused all offers to buy it. Composition. Turner creates a composition based on contrasts, sail versus steam, dark forms versus pale, cool colors predominating on the left contrasting with warm colors on the right where the dying sun blazes. A strong diagonal divides the picture in two, and draws the viewer's eye across the canvas in a way that creates the sense of forward movement suggesting the Temeraire's final journey towards the ominous, dark buoy in the bottom right. Forward motion. The linear of mastops leads diagonally towards the bottom right, while the dark shapes of tug and buoy suggest another diagonal link. These two diagonals create a point in the bottom left-hand corner, towards which the ship is being drawn to her doom. Smoke trail. A trail of fiery smoke belching from the tug's funnel cuts dramatically across the Temeraire. To accentuate the effect, Turner deliberately altered the boat's design, transposing mast and funnel. He put the funnel at the front and elongated the smoke trail. Technique. Unlike many of Turner's paintings, which have deteriorated because of his experimental use of materials, this masterpiece a relatively conventional oil paint mix, with walnut oil as a medium. In some areas, such as the hull of the Temeraire, paint is applied in thin, fluid veils. In others, such as the sky, Turner uses a technique known as scumbling, dragging brushloads of thick, opaque paint irregularly across the underlayer. Impasto yellow capturing the effects of yellow light preoccupied Turner. Here, he has built up impasto layers, using brilliant lemon yellow, which remains much as it was when he painted it, along with other less stable yellows, which have become more silvery than he intended. Although he often used a palette knife, Turner appears to have used a heavily loaded brush here. Hull of boat. In reality, the Temeraire was painted in yellow and black, but Turner evokes a ghostly sense of insubstantiality by depicting her hull in thin veils of gray and brown over ivory-colored paint. The pale lines of her timbers give her a strangely skeletal appearance. Blazing sunset. Turner began by painting the sky with thin glazes. When this layer was dry, he thickly brushed on yellows and reds for the clouds. He used several reds, traditional vermilion and Venetian red, both stable, and iodine scarlet, a newly invented pigment that was intense but unstable, and has changed over time. In context. Glory Days. He Temeraire, whose name means fearless, was a 98-gun man-of-war, first launched in 1798. She played a most noble and distinguished part in the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. When Admiral Nelson's flagship, the Victory, came under fire, the Temeraire came to her aid and captured 2 French ships before being so battered that she had to be towed away. The Battle of Trafalgar, 1805. Clarkson Stanfield, exhibited 1836. The Temeraire, flying the Union Jack, is depicted at the center of the action at Trafalgar. Story. Although based on a true story, Turner's painting transforms reality into an emotionally charged, poetic elegy. The ship was towed in from Sheerness to the breaker's yard in Rotherhithe over 2 days, probably in daylight hours, but Turner paints the scene at sunset, creating an air of finality. She would have been traveling west, but he shows her traveling east, so as to have the sunset behind her. Her masts would have already been removed, but he shows them intact, in stately opposition to the squat little tug's black funnel. 1 tug, not 2 in reality, 2 steamboats, Samson and London, tugged the Temeraire, 1 in front pulling her along, and 1 behind acting as a brake. Turner may have felt that the contrast would be more powerful with a solitary steamboat. Symbolic moon. A crescent moon appears as the sun sets. Some contemporary reviewers interpreted this as symbolic of the new era of steam taking the place of the passing age of sail, symbolized by the setting sun. A gorgeous horizon poetically intimates that the sun of the Temeraire is setting in glory. The Morning Chronicle, May 7, 1839. Full sail as the tug pulls the Temeraire forward. A number of sailing ships recede into the distance. On the horizon, this ship is shown in full sail, perhaps reminding us of the Temeraire's glory days. Painted with a few deft brushstrokes, its white sails stand out against the darkening sky.